David lives on. David now lives on. Whoa. Okay, we'll slowly get started with our opening prayers.
Jumbo, Jumde, de Shi,
Shimon Ran Jumbo Yanda Baran Zumbe Sangye Rimba Dan Shabsu Demba Dewara Shikpa Chikten Kimbo Kivu Dure Kalur Gyarwa Lana Meba Lana Mena Ye Dumba Sangye Jumden
Ye Wo,
Shayan
Shajan,
Dumba
Dumbo,
Lan
Lan,
Shadalo
Judo,
Judo
Gyabo,
Gyabse Je
Dumbo, Jumde, de
Dejin
Shi,
Shimon Ran Jumbo Yanda Baran Zumbe Sangye Rikpa Dan
Shikpa,
Shabsu
Shabu,
Demba
Dembo,
Dewara
Devo,
Shikpa
Devo,
Chikten
Jidin,
Kimbo
Kimbo,
Kivu
Kivu,
Dure
Dube,
Kalu
Kalu,
Girva
Lana, Meba,
Nibbana
Lana, Mena,
Menange Dumba
Dumbo,
Sangye
Sangye,
Jomden
Jomde,
Bege
Bege,
Washagya
Jaja,
Dumba
Tubo,
La
Jaze,
Jazeba
Bo,
Junda
Jundo, Gyazo,
Gyalunje
O, Dumbo,
Jomden Dejin
Jomde,
Sheba
Gajomba,
Jumba Yanda
Yanda, Ba,
Barazobe
Zobe,
Sangye
Sangye,
Rikpa
Rikpa,
Dan
Dan,
Shabsu
Shazo,
Demba
Demba,
Dewara
Dewa,
Shikpa
Jigden,
Chikden
Jemba,
Kimba
Gewu,
Kivu
Due,
Dure
Kalu,
Kalu Gyurva
Jurba, Lana,
Lana
Meba,
Meba
Lana,
Lana
Mena,
Menamge
Dumba,
Dumba
Sangye,
Sangye
Jomde,
Jomden De Bege
Bege, Wa,
Washagya
Chaja,
Tupa
Tuba,
La
La,
Jaza
Sendo, Jazo,
Junje
Wanze, Gani, Zo,
Zowo
Jidam,
Gyodamje Sajin De La Humba Dumborane Mane Jidin De Na Chonje Zon Deze Keba Kyola Jaza Namda Kuma Jodu Zuzanwa Yishi Gyatso Sergi Lumbora Taba Jidin Zumna Lame Wong Gombo Chunyi Kyola Jaza Senjo Demba Time Dawisha Serdon Ravo Kyola Jaza Dundra Kyola Ziba Zumaji Nyame Kinshin Kyola Jaza Gombo Tuje Jedemba Tamje Kimbe Domba O Sona Yenden Gyazo Jen Dejin Shela Jaza Jaja Yur Gewe Ngezon Le Jojin Chigu Dandan Jujurba Shigyu Jela Jaza Jone Rowe Lam Yanten Laba Dala Rabdun Shinge Damba Yundin Den Gendun Layan Jaza Keba Chiyam Mijajin Kewa Kunzun Sopar Rangi Sene Yonsu Dun Dene Sange Tempai Karma Radhe Marmedan Juma Seba Chuburdam Melan Loban Tindabu Diji Junan Didarda Sunan Di Tamje Sibai Goban Tune Yunge Radu Nadan Shive Lapchule Sibe Sole Ruan Ruare Sho. Page 3. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, the supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise then, I prostrate. With pure bodies, form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like the spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. Sitting here having great compassion, the founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean. To you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to that Dharma which pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions. Perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the foe of false, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by waves of aging, sickness, and death.
Baba Bunjo Sum
Maja Zelo Dige Dage Teba Dujina Jumdende Gyopuga Jago Bumbo Rilongi Longi Kintu Chambola Janju Simbe Kintu Chambola Taji Jidu Shude Te Tse Jumdende Zamona Washi Javi Shugi Namrangi Tingi Zemla Nyumbara Shuzu Yang De Tse Janju Semba Semba Jumbo Baba
Jere Onju Shera
Ge Bhara De Jimba Sama Cheba Nila Nambar Tashin Kumbo Ngabo De Dala Yang Rajin Ge Tombar Nambar Tao Dene Sangi Ki Demba Sharifu Junju Semba Semba Jumbo Baba Jere Se Wanju La Tige Cheme So Riki Bu Ganla La Shira Ge Bhara De Jimba Sama Cheba Choba Duba Te Chidar La Baraja Tige Cheme Bada Junju Semba Jumbo Baba Jene Se Wanju Ki Tsedan Demba Sharada De Bula Tige Cheme So Riki Bu Riki Bu Ganla La Shira Ge Bhara De Jimba Sama Cheba Choba Duba Te Titar Nambar Tawra Jate Ubonga Bonde Jagyan Ashingi Tombar Nambar Yanda Bar Shesu Tao Suk Tombao Tombani Zuzu Zule Tombani Shemayin Tombani Lekyan Su Shemayin Tejen Du Sorwalo Dushitan Dushitan
Sambara Sheba
Tombao Sharifu Dacho Damje Tombani De Sini Meba Magepa Magava Shima Meba Shima Damcha Shima Meba Kama Meba Sharifu Deda Wena Tombani La Sume Sorwa Me Dushi Me Dushi Name Name Shiba Me Nawa Me Name Shime Lume Yime Sume Rame Jime Rome Ruja Shume Lo Me Ye Kame
Bane Ije Kame Ije
Number Shive Kame Banu Yame Lo Mariba Me Mariba Seba Meba Kashi Sebe Fardu Yame Tejen Du Dunga Wadon Kunjun Wadon Gogodan Lame Ishime Toba Me Matoba Yame Do Sharibu Deda Wena Janju Semba Nam Toba Mebe Shir Shiragi Barudu Jimba Latenji Nede Simlan Jiba Mejin Raba Medu
Chije Lole
Chindu Dene Nyangele Debe Tar Sindu Dusumdu Nambar Shube Sanje Tamji Shiragi Barudu Jimba Latene Lana Meba Yanda Bar Zobe Janju Dungom Bar Zobar Sange Zote Wena Shiragi Barudu Jimbe Nga Riba Jimbe Nga Lana Mebe Nga Minyambana Nyambenga, Dunga Damjera de Shivar Chipenga, Mizumana Demba Shivar Jade Shirali Varu de Chimpenga, Memba Tayada, Gade Gade Para Sangati Bodhiswa. Sharibu Jonju Zimbo Zimbo Jimbo Nenda Shirangi Varu de Jimbo Zamola Lapar Jau, Dene Jomde Dinge Zendele Shinde Jonju Zimbo Zimbo Jimbo Baba Jine Ze Wanju La Lexo Shejawa Jine Lexo Lexo Rigi Bude Ede Shinte Chitara Gigi Demba Shinde Shiragi Varu de Jimbo Zamola Lapar Jate Ejin Sheba Namgyan Jesu Yirangu Chonde digi digi jika zilni zidan dimba shari dati budan janju zambo 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 baba jele ze wanju dan tamji dan dimbe kur de da da la da mi dan la ma yinda
tesa jebe
jide yiran de jom de digi zumba la mambare de do. Page 11. Thus I have heard, once the Blessed One was dwelling at Rajgriha on Vulture's Peak, together with a great assembly of monks and bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was totally absorbed in the concentration that examines all phenomena, called profound illumination. And at the same time, the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, was engaged in the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra spoke to the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, "How should those of good family learn who wish to follow the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond?" Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, replied to the Venerable Shariputra, saying, "O Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of good family wishes to follow the profound practice of the wisdom gone beyond should look at it like this, analyzing the five aggregates by nature empty. Form is empty, and emptiness is form. Emptiness is no other than form. Form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, karmic formations, and consciousness are all empty. Therefore, Shariputra, all phenomena are empty without characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are neither impure nor free from impurity. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no karmic formation, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. There are no spheres of the eyes, up to no spheres of the mind. There are none of these all the way up to the sphere of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance, nor is there destruction of ignorance. There are none of these all the way up to there is no old age and death, nor is there destruction of old age and death. Thus there is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cessation of suffering, and no path. There is no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there is no attainment, no bodhisattvas hold to the wisdom gone beyond, and because there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. Passing utterly beyond falsity, they reach beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times, by relying on the wisdom gone beyond, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, most perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the wisdom gone beyond, the mantra of great insight, the unequaled and unsurpassed mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering should be known as the truth, for there is no deception. The mantra of the wisdom gone beyond is proclaimed, Tayanta Gati Janti Parajanti Parasamgati Bodhisattva. O Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva, Mahasattva should learn the profound wisdom gone beyond. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and praised the noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, very good, O son of good family. It is exactly like that. The profound wisdom gone beyond should be practiced exactly as you have said. And then the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra, the noble Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering in the world with its gods, men, anti-gods, and spirits, their hearts full of joy, praise the words of the Blessed One. So ends the noble discourse on the essence of the wisdom gone beyond.
오늘 다른 것도 사니 뭐 아니 죄지 사탕주 람지를 봐 라브리 첨부 없애들 죄제되니 아니 기부 숨지 람지를 봐오 나 되게라는 거 조선 보선 이 지역에 제발지들에 손을
We resume our Sunday class on the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment. This is the text, the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, a text designed for beings of three capacities. And through listening, contemplation, and meditation, we make this time an exceptional time.
아니 가르스나 제자를 고바 고바 아니 제 남의 친구나 람네 아니 기우선이 람이 주주도 람이 셰바디 기우선이 람이 바트데 주야 여바도 juk 셰바디 아니 고바지 아 고바딜라 때네 아니 랑이 냠스 람네 아니 타랑이 줄라 아니 람도 줘봐 그러니까 콜 기우 충목에 람을 넣어봐 있나니 아니 지만 예송 탈바 제바다 기부 저기 남나 로바 있나니 아니 고알 탈바 제바다 아니 기부 친구들 남나 로바 제바 있나니 아니 라니 심제 탐지기 전도 아니 심제 탐지 대화로 거도 탈바살로 거도 제도 산지기 보고 토크기 오 되게 톱자 오 되게 랑기 필로 토바데 아니 이거를 해서
The topic of the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, the topic of this Shastra is practices for the beings of three different capacities. This is the topic. It establishes the purpose of studying the text. So as the purpose and the topic, it is the arrangement of various practices suited to various individuals. And when individuals study these and come to know them, then they begin to traverse, to move along the path to liberation. So this is the meaning then, and the meaning is put into practice so that ultimately realization, discoveries arise in the mind. And the discoveries that lead to realizations and ultimate aims are of this sort for the individuals of lesser capacity. They're liberated from lower realms. Individuals of middling capacity are liberated from samsara generally. And beings of greatest capacity, with a commitment to the well-being of all sentient beings, to the establishment of sentient beings and lasting contentment and liberation and enlightenment, have this as their aim. These are the ultimate aims, and with these aims in mind, we listen.
니구 세대다 타도 좁자 들라 니구 세고라 제단 근데 인도 당하나도 기부 충옥의 남 무슨 유변하는 기부 충옥의 남을 벌러도 아니 게 송기 중에 뭐시 받체 뭐시 내는 게 송기 중에 파가 게 송을 라야 개월래 뭐 매바 차서나 내 무고 차서나 아니 내 무고 차서나 아니 다 기부 충옥의 남지 이거 두번 다 대난신 지는 예중의 삼바지 고알 고액 교통 고액 교통 뭐시 뭐지 고액 교통 통은 이제 고알 깨는 지금도 쓰는 고액 교통 바로 가 매우서 아니 고알 탈바체 왜냐 수수 고알 탈바를 수수 동의 양호 말에 아니 동의를 탈바를 동의 양호 말에 이제 잠깐만 고알 탈바를 이제 기부 저기 남기 이거 두번했어 다 기부 첨복을 남기는 봤으니 아니 랑 동네를 타고 생기요 말에 신 동네를 타고 좀 우열에 신 동네를 타고 제를 탑 톱을 치도 라니 산지지 고만 톱 우열에 대대전 산지 고만 톱는 신지 대화로 거버 제가 동네를 트래블 제가 더는 아니 대과 첨복을 남기고 그거를 해서
So what then? These are the ultimate aims. These are ultimate aims, ultimate purposes for beings of these various capacities. The ultimate end of an individual of lesser capacity begins with understanding the suffering of the lower realms, comprehending that the lower realms are inherently suffering. Then the individual aspires to liberation from those lower realms, and the achievement of this liberation from the lower realms is the ultimate goal of the individual of lesser capacity. And the individual of middling capacity observes the faults and drawbacks, many as they are, of samsara, and comprehending them, recognizes that re-entry into samsara must be prevented and liberation achieved. And when that achievement comes to pass, this is the ultimate purpose achieved by this individual. They have personally escaped samsara cyclic existence, and no longer will they have to suffer the sufferings of samsara, and this is their purpose then done. And the individuals of greatest capacity, observing the drawbacks of cyclic existence applicable to themselves, but all the more so applicable to others, recognize that with their own enlightenment, they must then enlighten or lead to lasting contentment all sentient beings. So it is that they commit themselves to personal enlightenment with the end in mind of ultimately liberating sentient beings from their suffering so they may enjoy lasting contentment. And this is the outlook of the Mahayanist.
어디데 셰바 셰바라 몰라니 덴줄로 tösum 고송 고조고레 tösum 고송 마주바 아니 지고슨 람제르 바랑 생기 말에 마시는 그래 길이 말하잖아 어디데 이제 지기지를 대화유가 루도가 대화다 아니 지 덴줄 tö제 셰바라 저 tösum 셰바라 때네 지고슨 람제르 바유바 셰바 셰바라 때네 랑이 냠술라네 아니 지고 토바 어디데 그 중다 루도가 야만 저디 아니 데 대화스 이제 다 땡주되기 냠슬라이는 가리었으나 제자 그와 니구 저와 시디 야고 시행을 해서
안겨 시디
뭐지 제자처럼 이제 기본적인 미라를 맞아 아니 그와 기본적인 미라를 뭐 교수들이 여기 시험 될 때는 아기 그 니구 토바 대란 근데 지금 니구 제자의 저와 제자 니 그와 제자의 저와 대단히 제자들이 이 고바다 마저요 고바디 니구도 저요 어디 야만 편주 저요 바데 아니 되게 고소 출시 스텐주 되게다 로 tösum 주고 고소 출시 어디 뭐 시험 그래서
시바디 시바디
시바디 대화더라
아니야 라라라 with these ultimate purposes, these ends in mind, and the end ultimately that they arise in the mind, the three individuals with their varying capacities and the stages in training for those individuals, it is the topic of the Shastra. Study of this topic is necessary for any emerging comprehension of the topic, and that is required for an achievement of the very purpose. And so we have these as our basis for listening, contemplation, and meditation. Without the comprehension of the topic itself, realization in the mind is impossible. And so this is the process, or the process and the activity of entering and exiting conclusively samsara. When an individual knows the three trainings for the individuals of three differing capacities, then the means for entry, the means for exiting samsaric existence are known to that individual, and then they practice accordingly. And so we have here these four main components. We have the topic itself. The topic is the trainings for the three sorts of individuals of three varying capacities, the purpose of these trainings, the comprehension and then achievement of these ends, and then the connection between these components.
아니 나 거기 가는 쪽으로 산 람링이 어디 아니 고 신이 된주 어떤 저 냠내 제바 있나요 신이 되는 고쪽으로 아니 교성 고정 제바 있나요 고 신이 되는 고쪽으로 해서
With these connections between these three parts, one trains in listening, one trains in various practices, and as they begin their training, whether it be in listening or another practice, it begins in a certain definite place. Where is that definite starting point? It is proper reliance upon the Guru. This is the proper beginning point for any practice. It is the starting point for the practice too of listening, contemplating, and meditating.
Oh yes, that's the subject of the Quran. Christian namji zawa shi den de zus. Zawa sin pe 근데 자와를 배자는 송요를 제가 말한 다 간다 거기 제고도 요구 엑스연도 그랬다 비유가 있나요? 답이야 수연이 뭐 위다고지 매바 있나? 아니 제고 다 농보다 야가다 아니 제고도 야고다 두고 말와 제나시 간다 수연이 야고지 요바 있나? 아니 그런 게 제고 간데 보고 유매들랑 러와야요 어디나 신이 정부 신이 된들이 약보지 여바 있나? 아니 그냥 말람 또 줄래 깨라. 사회 야고 여바 나신 송여를 좀
Now, in the taxonomy of the text, which begins with proper reliance upon the spiritual mentor reliance upon the spiritual mentor is likened to the root. The guru then is the root of all that follows, just as a seed planted. When it germinates, if the seed is healthy, then it will germinate, and then a stalk will grow in leaves and fruits. However, if the seed is not healthy, then the rest won't come. With a healthy seed, there's everything to hope for. And so it is with proper reliance upon the guru. Proper reliance upon the spiritual mentor will fructify in realization in one's mind.
어떻게 다 신이 된지도 같이 상부 여바 있나요? 아니 람도고 지 그렇게 깨워 상부 깨워 되게 요레스 대나시 신이 맞대버 아니 신이 된지도 매버 아니 람도고 줄에 깨를 시작 가고 요레스 아니 배도 차샤버이나 말한도 미 통해요 감정 고아요 배나버 수수해요 내가 지금 있나요? 아니 수술라니 얘기면은 아니 그랬다 내가 그 상부지 유금매바 나시 딸미기 통야매 셈면서 요지하게 내가 돼 아니 다시 이제 야고지 마데마이나 아니 시작할 또 뭐지에서 시작하고 요래서
The healthier the root, stronger the root practice, the better the outcome. Without relying upon a spiritual mentor, realization is unlikely. And so, to take another example, when there is mentorship in a skilled trade, then one is able to visually observe, listen, and actually try one's own hand at a process through the guidance of a mentor. Without that skilled mentorship, a skilled craft, a skilled trade is unlikely to be mastered. So when the craft is to improve one's mind, if one doesn't have a skilled mentor guiding one is unlikely to realize the fruits.
어떻게 다 대답을 아니시 다 남리스 봐 대나는 통마 신이 된지 어디데 다 남기 냠스 랑바 제발라 통마 신이 된지 냠스 랑바 제발라 아니 다 람림 지단 람림 다 수수 시단 때에서 메저 요 이나야 단단한도 다 람림 율럼비 아니 다 람비 오케이 지금 체 나다 되냐면 신인族토냐면 난게 요바 인도 아니 율럼비 sabje나지 제발이나 아니 튠삼이 있어 튠삼이 있어 아니 튠델라야 아니 좋아다 무시 죽숨제 대나네 좋아 저의 최 죽제 저의 최 죽은 안에다 최 당고 된 들어와 어디 내가 지도자가 고소득이 된다 뭐 어디 가서가 네 신사와지 아니 제가 예매 먹고 제가 샴바 시험하다 된 대화가 도루 예선 도루 되는 계획이 권에 아니 권에 아니 계속 개발 제목에 전부 생계 자와서 sab지 수버디 나도 다 교수 제 어디 가는래 돼요 그래서
Now, in the graded stages to the path to enlightenment, and where one begins with reliance upon the spiritual mentor, various shastra describe the progression with slight variation. But we look to the swift path, this textual tradition, the tradition of the swift path, which is uniquely designed for those who are in the process of studying the secret Mantrayana in their practice. And then according to the taxonomy of that tradition, the swift path, first one considers the formal meditation session and then the period between formal meditation sessions. The formal meditation session is divided into the beginning, the middle section, and the conclusion. And the beginning section includes the 6 preliminary rites, or the 6 preparatory rites. And these are cleaning your room and arranging symbols of enlightened body, speech, and mind, obtaining offerings honestly and arranging them beautifully. These 2 rites we have concluded. And third, adopting the 7 featured sitting position or 8 featured sitting position of Vairochana on a comfortable seat, after which you take refuge, develop bodhicitta, and so on. We are presently at the auspicious moment of contemplating this 3rd preparatory rite.
ora ta na ka te ten dewala te dan de shu chare ta ten dewala de ni dulu de ka san sanje nam nan ge chu du de chu du nan ge sta chu du nan ge na ni chu du gi di ta mo shu chare ta de ne tama de la ya ge se na la ge ba de ka san ge ba de u ju mo ta u ju mo de ani des ya chi dan ji mi ji go de ma ta 이나야 아니 나 수수기 꿀웅 주주기 온게 아니야 우주모디 개침부 쓰기 어려서 그러지.
Adopting the 7 featured sitting position, taking one seat comfortably, with these 7 features of that position, we have concluded. The 8th, if one adds the 8th feature to the position of Vairochana, the 8th position is attention to breath. And it isn't, generally speaking, absolutely necessary as a feature to one's posture. However, when one is adjusting one's intention, it is a very critical component.
What is it? And it's all Carson Hanado. Kulung Chubu, your water, Laga Karim by another Gom Jail, so Ketchishu, Kulung Jay, Gomdi, Gomi, Abu, Drota, Madu, Gomdi, Kazachita, Laga Keo, the Migio Karim by Nayam, and Kulung Chuba, the Ketchibu Chadios, Kulung Jay, the Tandala, and Uj Modi, Tangati, and Kyungu, your resonance.
Now, the 8th feature, breath, attention to the breath. What is it exactly? Well, it's this. It's one certainly must adjust one's intention as one sets out in any project, whatever sort of work it is. All the more so, it is critical in a meditation, whether one is engaged in a constructive or destructive, virtuous or non-virtuous activity. Observing that, then setting it right with attention to one's breath is important, and so the importance of this feature.
Boy, the Karisana, around the Semdi da Migewa, Semdi, Migewa, Tumba Demba, Migewa Yamdo, Sem, Migewa Yamdo, Sem Yamdo Deduna, that Migewa Semdi to Japondo Majeka Mayumurwa. Oh, yeah, the Lugu Sem, the Yamdo Tumba Den, the watching Deduna. 아니 게슴 세타베 시다 카고차데요레스 나 게슴 세타 투구마레 딜레바 세즈 슈베이나 다 간다 수주 콘도몬도 줄데이나 아니 콘도몬도 규에가도 아니 직배 간다르 직 소싱으로 공부하다 게슴 개발진데 공부 제바이나야 오 게슴몬도 줄 가지고 공부 제바르마다 게슴몬도 줄 투구 말았어 가르선 셈디 이모베 슈치모 온도 줄데이가 와서 제가 티 니모 온도 줄디도 게슴 게투고 말해 게슴 마제바이나 콜롱죄야 되고 말해 제가 대체는 우디 그 냠네데 고를 해서
So the mind is this. The mind will conform to its non-virtuous tendency. if the tendency has been to be under the influence of the mental afflictions, to be close and reliant upon those mental attitudes, then in that state, it will be all but impossible to plant a seed for a virtuous inclination. So overwhelmed is the mind in its non-virtuous tendencies. So for a practical example, if one is angry, one starts out angry and then moves into a meditation upon the merit field or a meditation to develop the extraordinary mind, it's all but impossible for those practices to actually come manifest, because the mind is thoroughly under the control already of a mental affliction. So for the purpose of establishing a place for a virtuous mind to arise, one engages in these observations of the breath.
아니 레식다 sem 계셈 세다 비오마레 세 마다버제 셈 바 로마데는 결국 당고 셈 코랑게 모디 로마데레 셈 코랑 오네게 모디 로마데레 다디 로마데도 코셈 조 셈베랑 신은 네버체 로마데는 네버체고 오 딘네버 용야게 탑람나 아니 우주 모디 그저 당고 해서.
Then when the mind is predisposed toward mental afflictions during a meditation session, the first step to correcting this is to regain a neutral mental state. A neutral mental state is most thoroughly the nature of the mind, the neutral state. So to move the mind back into a neutral state is the objective of the meditation on the breath.
둘로도 잘라 가리 바이나야 때는 아주 천이 잡고 유바이나 아니 천이 잡아지도 천이 가오다 마음도 천이 잡고 유바이나 아니 잡사기 레디 배 장마치 안다 가오이나 가오가 양 배추 장마스에 아니 거기 장마스 아니 천이 잡이나 천이 뿌다고 랭기로 왔어 아니 거기 잡에 천거라 데 둘로거나 그 천이 야고 당문에 천 나고 거기 되었다. 아니 저마고 거기도 있는 저 시다 야과처는 저야고 특히 말로 되나시 아무도 셈이 어디 둘로 저야고 얘는 가고까지 추는 장모 소고도와 되나시 아니 말아도 셈이 되게 개심 깨고도나 아니 아무 미기를 셈이 바까 셈이 로마데나 소리게 아니 신에게 로마데기 때나 아니 개심 세다 부여를 해서
To give another example, when dyeing fabrics, in order for a dye to take to a fabric and be to show in a fabric, the fabric must begin in a color that can take a new dye. Best to begin with a pure and white cloth that can take a dye, a red dye, for instance. And so first the fabric needs to be cleaned. And when it's thoroughly cleaned, then it may be dyed and the dye will take. But if it begins as a black fabric and a dirty fabric, then no new colored dye will show. So we begin by cleaning what will be the fabric that will take the dye, and then the dye will take. And so it is with the mind too. In order to establish a virtuous mind, first close the non-virtuous mind, then open a neutral mind, and then plant the seed, a virtuous seed for a virtuous state of mind.
oi ta tene ko sem loma ten jurus da loma tan ta susu sem na la ma chi ba da tene khongdo da de ja do on sem de on sho do na ani ko chu kha jur go da ko ko jun de ja da khongdo do pa ka ani sem go loma ten ga la sha ani loma ten ga ne ani shine da ta da ma do de da da de pa ge di che go wa 안다를 게 그런 개발자네 장주 쌤 심바치 그거로 하자다 네 영화 개발하다 담보 쌤 거랑 아니 수수기 쌤데 간데스 대도 쌤 거라서 수수 칸나운도 플로 아니 다제제는 쌤 되자 원도 손도 손도 쌤도 컨트롤 원도 손도 손도 아니 쌤도 간데스도 아니 쌤도 거 흥이 제는 로마 때진 그 대도나 아니 신의 개선다 장주sem비 아니 세다고 해서
The purpose of meditation on the breath is to change a non-virtuous disposition of mind into a suitable state for the development of a virtuous state of mind, that is, to transform it into, move it into a neutral state. If one begins in an angry state of mind or with desirous attachment and is thoroughly under the influence of those, then begin the meditation by closing those minds, opening a neutral mind and beginning the meditation there. Beginning the meditation there, one may establish the exceptional virtuous mindsets, including and especially the mind of enlightenment, bodhicitta, which is and which must conjoin itself with our other activities. Now, to establish the mind neutrally, begin by turning one's attention inward and examining the mind for the influence of the mental afflictions, examining the mind, find the antidote, then relax the mind into a hanging in a neutral state, and then one may give rise to a virtuous state of mind.
거기에 유목 온도 유배 샘디 아니 저 카드 저 균에 로마데는 유도 잡아 아니 지단 탑만 못된 쪽으로 왔다 거리는 된 쪽으로 이내다 우중옥이 탑대야지 우투 중화다 파우가 더 되게 다 탑론 때에 탑론 상고지 쓰기 어려서 탑론 상고시라 쓰기 어려서 우 파서 땅에 제야 될라야 아니 우 땅에 직지단도 르바도만 보여서
Now, of the many methods for transforming the mind into a neutral, conducive state of mind, of many methods, the method of observing breath, observing the respiration, is considered to be one of the very best. One observes exhalation and inhalation.
우디다 파조 파칠라당 수용 제대 가나도다 주윤이다 유해버려 왔잖아. 다 이내야 우디 파조 당도서 봤더니 삼轮나왔다. 가다 우디 당도 아니 우디 자진스 지다요. 아니 우 숙진세라. 아니 우 고바스데 우 당당만 보였다. 나무고 아니 우 베시 깨는데 점이거든 우야. 서로 선배 우지 야마 태도 잡아 아니 지 라다 특별히 암적으로 잡아야 이거도 숙들에 맞대마 아니 숙치중 친구 맞대마 친구 맞대마 레보템바 아니 즉 룽베양 다시 즉하게 텐동 마디 돈 아니 즉 수술이야 겸셔야다 아니 줄을 맞대야 되고 어때데 많이 봐 룽베 숙치중 연보 즉 되지 아주 태양 답시 제고 해서
Respiration, exhaling out, inhaling in, this of course is continuous for us. Now, when one turns one's mind to the breath, to attend to the breath, then the breath may be seen in its various forms it takes as one respires. The respiration, the inhalation and exhalation may be something done forcefully and audibly. So sometimes when we inhale and exhale, it's audible to the ear. We can hear it, and sometimes it's turbulent and forceful, and other times it's made calm and gentle. And so when the breath is moving in a turbulent way and in a way lacking balance, that can cause one to be sort of agitated or laugh or feel uncomfortable. And so observing these is part of this practice. 당부 가리스바인 당부.
이거 냠도
냠도에.
냠도 당부 이거 그래 냠도 당. 야틴도 냠도 돼 마틴도 냠도 당. 예네 대 유연 마도 유연네 대 예 당고 돼. 다 냠네 다 조금다 된다도 다 롱줄 거들라 냠네 마고 쉐요 그래서.
Now there are many breath practices, and some of those practices use inhalation and exhalation without blocking any nostril, through both nostrils together, inhaling together, exhaling together. Others have closing a nostril and inhaling through the other nostril, then closing the other and exhaling through the other, inhaling through the left, exhaling through the right, inhaling through the right, exhaling through the left. There are all sorts of breathing exercises, and especially in the completion stage trainings, there are many breathing exercises.
다 단단한 내 당보와 다 단단 그 토마스 롱세타베 내갑기 아니 롱조티 진짜 뭐 롱이가 나고는 당도 냠도 땅 갈래 마셈데 셈 마땅도 갈래 땅야 텐도 갈래 텐 아니 셈베 나는 다 롱도 두스땅 땅도 셈비 굴롱기 다 롱데 파치라 droso 다 술레송 저 오파 땅도 다 롱치라 droso 삼바제 롱 테디 아니야 롱 나라 레송 삼바제 삼로 텐디 예베가네 아니 롱도 갈래가 땅으로 해서.
Now, as a beginner, the first step when bringing the mind to a neutral state to begin to plant the seed for a virtuous disposition of mind, one begins with a meditation on the breath or breathing exercise in which one exhales through both nostrils slowly and gently, and inhales through both nostrils slowly and gently. And as one does so, one attends with their mind to the breath, observing that the exhalation has been exhaled and the wind is external now, and then inhaling, observing that the wind has arrived inwardly, and inhaling and exhaling. This way one exercises the breath.
간다 꿀롱 개와ကျွ 마투야기 미게 왕도 쇼도나 아니 다 세미나네 다 롱조르티 장으로 와 장도 잡아 아니 다 당부 롱 칠라 파지다 수질네 오 덴데직 차직직 저 뒤주시 그러면 셈마이와 전에 세미나 삼을 당기 오데 또 땅네 차 뒤주시데 아니 뒤주 톨라 양직 구선바로 흘려 자기도나 아니 뒤인데다 땅 아니 디네야 꿀롱 저기지 양 뒤를 꿀롱스마 셈이 니모디 시기민도나 아니 양 줍시스 어디에 제약이냐면 송이어서.
An ordinary person in average health, without any real illness, when they respire during a minute, will inhale and exhale 16 or so times. Now, for us, we consider the breathing exercises in our training in order to influence the mind, to establish a neutral frame of mind, to close non-virtuous minds. And so we do our exercise, breath exercise, exhaling and inhaling, and the purpose is to bring the mind to a neutral state. And so to do this, one may begin with 7 cycles of the breath. And if one is, during 7 cycles of the breath, able to remain attentive to the breath without distraction, the mind will thereby be calm, and one may adjust the mind to a virtuous disposition. Now, if a cycle of 7 breaths is completed and the mind remains agitated and under the influence of mental afflictions, then continue and make the cycles 14 cycles.
set up sojo macha badal ko lung do jo ya ma chen ya ma tang ya ne ma ta de chin an du yi sabji ka zo da ni shu za ji ni sabji ka zo chin na ko zo da tu zu da ge de che ani ine de chi du da ma ani su su de changa ja ya de sem 랑 ge changa ja wo sem ma do yan chi lo changa do tang nan zu bu de changa ja de che de na ani yan sem de 저 누구지 마디 아저 샘마지웨는 거의 마지로 시기 말했어. 제가 그 샘랑 삼로당 아니 룽조도 제 룽조송 달래송 삼들이지 보랑 삼로당 아니 잘 다들 망고 치고는 되게 제네 아니 그 샘가로 저 그 맞다는 야 원내서는 아니 지네 세 답에 두주로 제로 해서
Now, as we attend to the mind, to bring the mind to a neutral state, and we go through 7 cycles, and if necessary, 14 cycles, and if necessary, 21 cycles, we will count out the cycles. The purpose being to finally arrive in a neutral state of mind that is poised and ready to become a virtuous disposition. And so one continues inhaling and exhaling, coming to 21 times or on to 28 times. And as one does this, the counting should be in internal mental counting and not something done on a mala or anything using the body, but should be mental. And there will be no addressing the discomfort and disquiet in the mind until one establishes a neutral frame of mind. And so continue the observation of the breath, exhaling, observing, I've exhaled out, inhaling, observing, I inhale in, and in this way, gradually a neutral mind is established.
로 내가 요아만 못 두고 와 단단한 로 장관에 로 마시고 이거 간단나 아니 맞아 그 가르나 셈찍 뒤지찍 아니 유이들 내가 니스 모두 미직 내가 니 치마도 나기 셈코 유니 냥도 뒤지찍 치투고요 말했어 치마도가 인도 다 셈디 니모 온도 쇼 콘돌라서 온도 유이나 아니 가르치고 와서나 거기에 셈 깨투고 말고 이 냥도 깨투야 누가도 요 말와 근데 매번 인도 아니 그 셈디야 걔 탑남 지도라 루마데는 파 셈코랑 뭐 루마데에 어디 셈 뭘봐 내버지 셈베다 내 차는 아니 시네 나그미셈 미기와 파 샤자와 다시 내셈 개와 내고 대송이죠.
The breathing exercises that we engage in our meditation as abecedarians, as beginners in the training, is preliminary practices that come before the accomplishments of samadhi and special insight. Samadhi and special insight requiring considerable training and the familiarization of the mind with those accomplished states. And we haven't yet arrived there, so we observe the breath and recognize that yet lacking a great accomplishment in the mind, we simply cannot hold 2 things constructively in the mind at once. And so when the mind is under the influence of the mental afflictions, it is impossible to develop a virtuous mind. And so first, what is required to establish a virtuous mind is to bring the poise of the natural state of mind, that is neutrality, into play, so that from there, the virtuous state of mind, a virtuous disposition may be produced.
Semdi kada da diriro ngazu tanda di sem da gesim jeda wara sem tachida ngazu ya ugu chunga de la ngazu tuyu lojong ka so la lungi nyamne che de zo la ta ngazu le thabo la ya lojong ka nyamne chi de lungti ani nabu ta ne pena thabo nabu yeba do ta yeba ne lungi ya thabo ya Zero da penda tamo kelchina ting tamo lungma pemba sina diga lungya uba sina diga ta uba su jungwa da uba present su lung su jungdu zamba ani chik ta lojong do ina lung di yeba ne ten lung yeba ne su yu su lengu zamba ani suzuki pada chik ta sangye da chanju samba de tuji de chilab de so rang lebe bi bache ani ran za nang de lung tang an za na lung chi lo khang ani lung yeba ne ma tang du zamba ani rang ne da sem da ma ji ba da ni mo ko de ju sem zu ma pheme bi bache o de de nyam ne sung yo re sung si
Breathing exercises to poise the mind, prime the mind for exemplary virtuous states of mind. These trainings, these breathing exercises are part of mind training. They are the trainings for a beginner. And in the mind training tradition, whether you begin this meditation or this exercise on the breath with an exhalation or an inhalation, doesn't necessarily make a very great difference. But in the mind training tradition, we'll say that we begin with an inhalation through the right nostril. And as the inhalation is made, the visualization or the idea is of the blessings of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas as nectar entering the body and then filling the channel and overflowing from the crown. And as this happens, the exhalation begins, and in the exhalation, all of the mental afflictions that fill the body are expelled through exhalation.
아니 파 된다잖아 아니 다 니모디 디바다 티바기 남바체네 템베 미바체에 로종 가서는 다 냐면 무슨 일을 해서지.
And in even greater detail, the breathing exercises in the mind training include inhalations of light itself or nectar itself. This is the visualization. Light and nectar entering the body, and then in exhalation, negativities and obscurations taking form and expelled from the body.
근데 이제는 되게 빼려고 간데 남아서 빼 간데 숨겨야으나 빼나 하나도 남 장모 요새 사자지 가라 아니 수수고 대사 직 거기 대사 땡땡지 수수고 대사 땡가라 아니 미션 바지 대두나 아니 미션 바들라 그 우주기하네 간다 탑식 전답체는 그 랑고 있을라나 그 랑로 제메 수수하고 말을 말하는 그쪽 겸비게 아닌가 여러 왔어 콜라야 탑시에 제냐 콜라 코드 대내 간에 랑투에 탑시에 제냐 콜라 계제 년부 시험도에 양고 어땅도에 가르친 탑시에 제냐 아니 코야 랑수나 내세대가 나도 수수 대투어 지고도 왔어 어디나시 배대대 나시 제는 송여를 쌤이 이 모두 다 어땅 다 랑투 그니까 수수 대투에 어디나시 그런 밖에 쌤이 우장은 장고에 굉장히 배드의 숨을 해서
in the breathing exercises in which one exhales and inhales in order to prime the mind to a virtuous disposition by first establishing it in a neutral state. What is a metaphor that we've been given to illustrate this? Teachers in the past have likened this process to a situation like a person being in winter and in the cold, a person being in the cold, and there being a single cushion and another person already occupying that cushion. And we want to, instead of that person, we'd like to sit on that cushion. And so then you can think of some ways to force that person to get off the cushion. You can imagine forcing them off the cushion, but that might escalate into a fight. And so you might think of a clever means to draw them away from the cushion. Maybe you speak cunningly, or maybe you simply mislead them entirely. But the illustration is our mind is absorbed in one thing, and we wish to rather absorb it in another. We'd like to switch seats. And so the breathing exercises are for the purpose of getting the mind to move off its non-virtuous seat so that it may take a virtuous seat.
다양 수정어데 로마데 관련 미개와다 총대도 송메도나 셈 로마 미개와다 냠도 미도나 총대도 송메도나 아니 이지미지 우도한테도 최고야가 말아 최나 나도 최계고야 최 당고 뒤니 산제 남남이 수야도 최 당고 뒤들랑 돈에 제 엔디네 계선 굴웅주 계선 개발진한테다 셈 세트업 오드리 체셔나 우주모디 지미지 고야가 말아 재산 가지고 뒤는 계스 뒤니 예버도 고아라 계디 굴웅 간다 계선 세트업 투구면은 딱 투야가 지들라 계디 송어래 송
So the mind seated, or rather the non-virtuous mind seated on the cushion, is to be deposed so that a virtuous mind may occupy it. And so the breathing exercises that we train in, are for the purpose of priming the mind to a virtuous, exceptional state of mind. And so we meditate on the breath in order to establish a mental state that is neutral to begin with and may be followed by a virtuous state. If to begin with the mind is not influenced or under the sway of non-virtuous attitudes, if it isn't conjoined with a non-virtuous state of mind, then there's no need for the breathing exercise. And so a seven-fold or seven-featured Vairochana position is sufficient. If the exceptional state of mind, bodhicitta, is primed and ready to be produced already, then there isn't the required intermediary step of establishing the mind in a neutral state. So one may simply rely on these seven features of the Vairochana position, which are absolutely indispensable. It's this eighth that is required if the mind isn't primed and in a neutral state to begin with. Well, the breathing exercises are useful for all sorts of ends, all sorts of practices.
Oh yeah, the old tongue the modern the transaction the machine the Karesana, Karchi was not the Tuji Gola, Gessim never gave him that Gessim Cheberchen, the Lamrim because of the Gessim Cheberche set up Uyos, Gessim Tabanani, Gessim Cheberche said about that, and using the set up Uyos, and you said Tabala, 아니 쌤 다음에 유모로 써봐라 쌤 교회 나머지는 게나 아니 자주쌤 세다 두고 말아 제가 딱 두야 지도라 아니 자기들이 시기 열에서
The description of 7 points, or the descriptions of a multi-pointed position at the beginning, at the outset of one's formal meditation, is part of the first step to developing an exceptional virtuous mind. Of exceptional virtuous minds, the most exceptional is bodhicitta, and this is the mind that is to be produced at the beginning of the formal meditation session. And so, to make conducive the mind to its development, one employs these numbered features to one's position.
간달 계절 딱 지단 개와 간데 계절 간데지 제바는 계획이 좋아 간데지 제바 있나요? 도마 꿀ung 줘봐디 아니 시라 개침불에서 개침불 차다 개침불 있는데 아니 간데스나 딱 그날 개침불 있나도 딱 쿵도 또 쿵도 제바이나 아니 딱 간다 최 간데지 뭐이나 최 탐지 게임을 때는 중화를 게임이 말해서 제가 게임을 중요하게 게임 개월을 때는 중요하게 가서 누바 개월을 누바게 꾸능도 야고 유나 아니 제가 그거 개월다 개월을 누바디 매버이나 최 제가도 개월을 두고 매버 근데 돌을 송요래서 도구나는 데를 송요래서 직접 답변은 땡주 나는 차샤바이나 땡주 나는다 공부를 시딩이 공부를 나왔다 맞아 되자 시간 때문에 대길내는 미게도스 딱 그런 샘디기 온도 되자다 시간 때문에 온도 체네 아니 내 간대지 제샤와 있나야 내 디게가 내 미게월에 제부 동네 중거를 했어 다 되자 매바 시간 매바 때문에 매바 때문에 개왔으면 개왔으면 되다 딜라 때문에 중요해 내 간대지나야 내 개월에 제부 도와진 그래서 근데 숨을 해서 제가 때문에 대길내는 미게다스 아니 마차 메당 때문에 대길내네 여와 이제
Whatever the training in virtue, most important as the first step is establishing one's virtuous intention. Now, how so? How does one establish this virtuous intention? The sutric support for that, the support we find in the sutras for the importance of establishing a virtuous state of mind is presented this way. Whatever the activity, whatever the dharmic activity relies upon its support, its condition. And the condition for virtuous dharmic activity is aspiration toward virtue. Where there is aspiration toward virtue at the outset, the following activities will be virtuous. Where there is no aspiration toward virtue at the outset, the following activities will not be virtuous. And in the Shastras, the support for this is found in Nagarjuna, in his letter to the king. And there, Nagarjuna propounds from desirous attachment, hostility, and ignorance, only non-virtue follow. From dispassion, awareness, or rather, from dispassion, kindness, and awareness, only virtue follows. When virtue follows, then the experience is necessarily satisfaction and contentment.
싸워 두이나 양가들 로마야 두 용거레스 싸워 매이나 양가들 로마야 매도 용하나지 아니니 되자 세단 무슨 자와 간디지 제가 있나요 미겨 다 대마바 미겨res 제가 티나신 다 꿀롱디 뉴목이 왕도 송외게 직다 퇴선 고순 제바이네다 레카리 제바이나 탐지 남이 이도 미용하레스 제가 디바레스 와서
And also, the illustrious Atisha put the point this way, that from a poisonous seed, only a poisonous stock and poisonous berries will be produced. From a medicinal seed, only a medicinal stock and medicinal berries will be produced. From desirous attachment, hostility, and ignorance, only suffering ensues, and therefore those are non-virtuous. From dispassion, kindness, and awareness, only gratification and contentment ensue, so those are virtuous. And therefore, when the mind is determined, when the experience is determined by the intention of the mind, when one engages in listening, contemplation, and meditation, or whatever it may be, if the mind is inclined toward non-virtue to begin with, then the result will actually be unpleasant.
아니 다스도 뭐좀 되는데 고랑 뭐말 로벌 넘기 내갑수 아니 넘기 내갑수 아니 대변 인지 참 무엇인지 다 뒤도 고랑 개월내 미 뒤도 민들 대변 인지 참 무엇 미 민들어서 고랑이 가르쳐야 해서나 아니 고랑 통방갑자다 냠돌라 아니 자절로 누굴래 같이 아니 같이 누굴래 수 용도 담바 아니 디디오 코나도 로봇이 요래 로봇이 민을 걸려거든 미나 동동서 어떻게 로봇이 민을 어였다 미나 동동 생기기 가르쳐서 딱 먼저 총 뭐게 처를 누구 가면 되면라 아니 저 로용도 아니 코나가 나가라다 거기 섬로 두자시 땅 꿀롱 두자시 땅네 다 총묘 로봇이 차상 세트와 이나 아니 누구들이 코나라 그냥 코나베 다 정말 침부차게 이어가겠더니 꿀ung 삼로 들이지 코네 아니 그런 거 총별로 방갑제 담보디 아니 다서야 탑시 제발했어 이 탑시 지도 담보 아니 좀 되게 예 뒤도 장주 생각이 개월내 대변인지 좀 생이 되게 딱 거기 탑주 예바치기 이어받아 하고네 아니 거기다 가르쳐야겠으나 아니 총별로 뭐들도 소리 교배 이어받아 아니 미삼로 녀바타니 밀나 돈돈제 생이 코랑 콘주고 민갑제 담바 세베이나 세베 제불 되네 남이 제부디 녀송라 베시 유르부 양고고 유바이도 아니 코랑 인지 제 인지 왕이 아니 가르쳐서나 딱코 미디 갑제 담바데 소를 줘봐 뭐 줘봐지 텔레 명갑제 담아 세베 때는 세얘기 미치고디 롱도 계기 요다 되게 소리 깨마도 답식이 더다 권한이 인지 꾸네 나네 미치고디 세샤고 해서 나도 그 세샤고 해서 어디고 찍었어.
So we have the support from the sutras, the support from the shastra, and then a illustrative tale to bear it out as well is found in the story from the Buddha's past life when he was a bodhisattva in training, at the time known as Mahasattva. And at that time, Mahasattva, the bodhisattva, was a ship captain, a captain of a ship that traveled to a land where there were great mines of precious stone. And he guided the ship to the island and mined there, and was returning with his crew of 500 and a ship filled with all those precious gems. And among the 500, in addition to the 500 crew members, there was another on board, another known as Shakti with a black spear. And this individual known as Shakti, with the black spear, had this deceitful intention to take the lives of the 500 shipmates so that he alone would get to enjoy the wealth of all the jewels they had on board. So this was what Shakti with the black spear was considering. And as he did, the Bodhisattva in training, Mahasattva, became aware of Shakti's plan and considered protecting the 500 crewmates, and also considered what would come of Shakti with the black spear if he were to take 500 lives, namely that he would experience an interminable, miserable experience in the lower realms as a result, as a fully ripened result. And so with great compassion to directly protect the 500 shipmates, and compassion to prevent Shakti from falling into the lower realms and suffering there, he took the life of Shakti with the black spear.
제부 남이 제부 지난 가래 송 남이 녀월 깨오로 코 녀월 깨고요 미세베레 아니 제가 뭐 녀월 깨고요데 코 녀월 마제바 탈 깨오레스 제가 코깨 탈 깨고야디 아니 코 미세베 제부들 때네 탈 깨요 마레스 그 꿀웅 닝지 첨보지 모두 깨네 깨버라 때네 아니 미소 너가 담아도 소 깨버래 미치부디 타망에 송도 그런 민감지 담아 세워이나 그 냐와리 깨오래 냐와리 깨 먹어 거기 찹 딜라 그런 게 구름도 가리었으나 다코 냐와리 깨나 빼마지 연결에 다 딜 코잡게 냥고 삼베 구름들이 슈첨부지 여바이다 디 구름 디 왕게 네 송도 마마 사와제 하율이 야게 송을 해서
So Mahasattva murdered Shakti with the black spear. What would be expected to be the result of that? The fully ripening result of murder is rebirth in the lower realms. But rather than being reborn in the lower realms, the Mahasattva was born into the heavenly realms. So the usual result that follows from murder is the miserable experience of the lower realms. It is necessarily so. However, here the Mahasattva was born in the heavenly realms, but he wasn't born into the heavenly realms as a result of murder, as the fully ripened result of murder. He was born into the heavenly realms as the ripening result of his intention. The intention was great compassion. It was the great compassion to protect 500 shipmates. And furthermore, it was the great compassion informed by the wish to prevent Shakti from experiencing an interminable, miserable experience in the lower realms. And it was Mahasattva's volunteering to experience the fully ripened result of murder, that is his own interminable agonies in the lower realms. He volunteered himself, Mahasattva, to experience this instead of Shakti, and to protect the 500 lives, and to protect Shakti from experiencing a rebirth in the lower realms. Mahasattva took the life of Shakti and was born into the heavenly realms.
레기 저와디 고 소주보다 미기를 내가 이나 양 꿀웅티 독기 고 대분남이 거기 동해 마녀와체 아니 남이 대화 용거에 데데티 콜 도다 그랬어 거기 꿀웅티기 왕기 저와 미기와 지기 이나 양 대부 대화 토베 이바디 어디 담아나도 하고 그래서
The force of this extraordinary, powerful virtuous intention, completed in an instant for interminable, incalculable eons worth of the accumulation of merit in an instant. He completed the collection of merit that would have taken 4 eons in 1 moment. So in short, this illustrates the powerful force of intention. The intention here was virtuous, and the actual activity or the action was non-virtuous. But the fully ripened result in this case, rather than being of suffering, was of contentment. And so why the right to this experience following a non-virtuous action? The answer is by the force of the virtuous intention.
저와 두자 저지 이거 있네요. 꿀ung 인지 전보다 꿀ung 냠바면다 아니 레디 대부 미개워데 용투고 말와 레 동네디 용투고 말. 꿀ung데 콘도 원도 심바다 베데 원도 심데이나 레 개와 있나냐 대부 동네 용거데 여버데 이 단어도 냠내데 어쩌고 해서.
Now, attending to the Dharma teaching and the lesson here, one ought to apply the lesson to one's daily activities, whether one in their daily activities tends to be engaged constructively or destructively, virtuously or non-virtuously. Realize that the force of compassion, that is an intention devoid of, in which hostility, anger, and mental afflictions are absent, great compassion, when it intends the mind and informs the action, then though the action may be destructive and it may be apparently, ostensibly non-virtuous, the virtue at the outset, the virtuous intention can make of the ostensibly non-virtuous activity a virtuous practice. And so too, if in ordinary activities you are engaged in constructive projects, constructive virtuous projects, but your intention, your frame of mind at the outset is fully influenced by anger and hostility, then the actual ostensibly constructive activities will in actuality be non-virtuous.
아니 통들이 개념 연구를 했어. 개념 개와 딜라 다 간다 개와 딜라 레산에 개와 치만 되고 용의 유지되어 와. 다 통주 연구를 내 빼디디와 도 통주 연구 세딜라 레산에 세딜라 용한데 아니 통주 연구를 했어. 어디 답이 되는데 디와도 메시니 소나시.
As it applies to your practice, understand this dynamic. And here in this illustrative account, we have an example of actions in one life determining the experience in a subsequent life. There are 2 examples of, and a dynamic that occurs between actions in this life and results that are seen in this very life. So I will continue here.
Oh yeah, that did romance. new 준비도 시다. 유럽 도시도 들어 뉴나. 제단 가르쳐버스나 기르기인데 메장고지랑 잠시르기인데 메장고니 코니 가르쳐버스나 코니니가 교체는 안 떨론 사니 너무 잘. 코니 론은 루드담바 아니 당부 잠시르기 가르쳐버스나 잠시르기 떨론가도 아니 뉴나. 기뉴기 대해서 레벨. 근데도 좀 잠시르기 거기 거기 뒤주 교단도 하고 신기해요. 마신도 좀 고 또롱도 잡아 긴두기 칼라데 담몽을 긴두려야 땅 그들로 피 아니 피산에 파송은 막 너무 롱일 제기로 와 제가 잠시디 고 긴두려 마비고는 레이말 레비도만 고 고지도 아니 고주 맞아요 맞다 맞아요 제 칼라 말아 너무 예리디 고 뒤도 야고지를 더인 거다 간다 긴두려야 셀라 피사네 아니 칼라 땅사를 하디 이디좀 아니 게리들라 이다 기두주 칼라 하마 망고 또 하마 망고 나면 바로와 아니 나는 군이 되는 말도 좀 아니 군이 파세를 나고 마트에도 투두다 아니 게리 땅고 되게 잠세 땅고 되게 결혼을 아니 또 라서 또 이제 라서 해스 티버 지도자 아니 잠세 되게 삼로 나다 꿀웅이 버죠 가르나 콜 잠세를 봐 긴디 긴디주가 아니 잠세를 막아서 또 이제 마송삼 꿀웅 콘도사데요 게리 되게 땅고 되게 곧 긴디주가 말아 시우지 야본나 송삼데 긴디주를 가와지는 이 대박이 되어와 어찌 대박이 지 공부게 따이는 전달이 또지 라마라 전달이 주더래 제가 군이 뒤에는 군이 계속 퍼즐 라베즈도 아니 잠세되게 가를 라베스나 말 왕제지 라소나 좀배 왕제지 라소나 게 긴디디게 샤제기 긴디디게 깨투는 고습을 살아 유게 되우도라 그런 하서 세주지 말와 다 예리 장고 되게 다 말아 왕제 라소나 녜베 긴디디게 담아라 배 둘다고 인gur 쉬네 배 컨트롤 배 인gur 쉬네 말하는 거다 대바 통화 지기 지기 되우도 뭐 그니까지 되듯이 쉐레 세버레스 와 그래서 나디 그제 쉐바다 kulung 될 때네 아니 군이 가르치는 코란이 있다 되네 봐 너무 재밌으니 가사가 좋아하네 가사가 니에 되기도 아니 군이 신도 좋아하네 니에 되듯이 봐 아니 신다 콜로 직조용전에 아니 잠시디 가는 직보다는 콜로 중전에 깨체샤이 말와 깨체는 콜로 베이스 다시 통송을 제가 다 통송 맞아 다 제딜 통준이 주 레디 용어를 때 단도 아니 용주를 내 방고 용구를 와서 이거지 순간 추승이 예부터 제일 통신
Now, in the past, in India, there were in Vaishali, there were Sravasti, there were three acquaintances together, two Brahmins and one Kshatriya from the kingly clan. So the Brahmin and this individual from the kingly clan, and they were together mendicants who would beg for their food and feed on that which was given to them. And so there was a custom whereby when the Sangha of the Buddha Shakyamuni was eating, first one would make an offering to the Sangha, and the Sangha would eat, and then any extra food would be given away to other mendicants, not members of that Sangha. And so the two Brahmin weren't fully aware of that procedure, and they didn't arrive in a timely way, and so they hoped to receive some sort of food, but they didn't arrive in a timely way, and so they were turned away without any food, turned away from the Sangha without any alms of their own. Whereas this Kshatriya man knew to visit in a timely way, that the food would be distributed after the Sangha had partaken of it, and so arrived at the right time and received plenty of food. And later, these three met again, the two Brahmin and the Kshatriya, and had an exchange, and the Brahmin asked, "Did you get food?" And the Kshatriya asked the other, "Did you find a meal?" And the Brahmin were very resentful because they didn't receive anything. They were angry and resentful. And this was a non-virtuous non-virtuous attitude of theirs. Whereas the Kshatriya received alms and was very appreciative, and this was virtuous. So the difference really was who it was and whether they got food or not, alms or not. Now the Brahmin resentfully vowed to, should they ever receive an ample inheritance, an ample power, to behead these insolent Sangha. And the Kshatriya, having a different experience, vowed to, should he ever come to an inheritance, venerate the Sangha and provide a feast with 100 flavors. And then the first result to ripen differently upon these individuals was the Brahmin would walk and then rest at the side of the road under a tree. And while they were doing this once, a chariot came by and they were positioned just so that the wheels of the chariot ran their necks over, beheading them.
아니 고랑 가르쳐버렸으나 아니 롱바디기 송보의 전부지 부시네 아니 고랑 부시네 아니 또 보고 있어라 아니 야 지금 송보 거야 된다라 아니 김다 강가를 부서는 미디어 수요나 딩알을 이게 차 송보 불러보기 있으니 거의 잡다도 아니 건조가 따지신 제대로 아니 길이 장고되게 가르쳐버렸으나 그 신동 좋아하는 얘기도 아니 건조가 답안에 따져 미소는 체인지 수도 따기요 따지자 아니 이막이 드나데 신동 신바들 가르치 드마 강아야 유전의 본인에 대해서 신동을 드나데 이 마예워서 대대기요스 대대도 많이 건조 아우 미디다시도 콜로 손놈 전도 가지고 고만주고 아니 총부 불러 탑재나 야고도 고나 야고도 선 들려라잖아 고 들려대 고 총부 보고 탑자 아니 탑자보다는 고 총부 보고 자도 고 배조 친구자 아니 고 기들려 인구만 먹고 쉬어라 때문에 아니 그런 대화 통화들이 전에 제대로 통주는 그런 사람들이 중앙 SD 중앙에 꼴롱당 아니 말하도 같이 상고매마다 같이 예반매베 꼴롱 왕기 되게 왕기 제불 때문에 아니 그런 대화 요한이 중앙에 해서 뭐지
덴바 통화라나 덴바
통화세다 돈이 그런 너 되게 먼저 돈이 통화서 자가지고 덴바 통화세다 뭐 저기냐면 체증과 중앙에서 그런 대화 요한이
The virtuous aspiration of the Kshatriya was to, should he have an inheritance, treat the Sangha to a feast, and hopes he had to for his own realization to follow. And at the same time in Shravasti, a merchant, a businessman, passed away. He had no heirs, and he was very wealthy. And there was an announcement made that they should seek an individual of exceptional distinction in their virtue, and the inheritance would be theirs. And so they went out, people from Shravasti, to find an individual meritorious, virtuous, and deserving of the fortune of the merchant. And they came upon the Kshatriya asleep under a tree, but marvelously, as the sun moved across the sky, the shadow didn't move around the tree, but remained shading the Kshatriya there. And they recognized that this was an exceptional individual, and he received the inheritance. And as a result of his receiving the inheritance, he had the means for patronage of the Buddha Sangha, and through this, he then himself realized reality as it is, saw the truth, and consummated the spiritual path.
아니 디나신 하나도 또 유냐면 지도 아니 다 간다 오케이 다 부른 것도 있다는 하나도 다 내게 내 저와 예보다 두자 거리 임바 있나요 꿀ung 그 공로고 마신 바 닝지 생바인데 여바 있나 아니 수수 난 제부 두개 용 먹고 왔다 제부 대화터가 예바도 야면서 수수수 따다다다 되게 야면하는 잘 심어 치고 해서
Illustrated for us then is the powerful influence of an intention, a determinative influence in terms of that determining that which is constructive and that which is destructive, that which is virtuous and that which is non-virtuous. And we have the scriptural support for this too. And so now in each of our practices, recognize the influence of intention and how it determines that which is constructive and that which isn't. And so do not allow hostility to motivate and determine your actions. Incline yourself to have compassion, always conjoined with your actions, so that the results may always be favorable and virtuous. And continually do this in your practice. So the second step for practical practice is to recognize that this very life is symbolically and realistically of exceptional significance, surpassing any of the fortunes of being born a god or being born a naga. For the human life is a symbolic force for the accumulation of that which may be favorable, all favorable results. And when this body is recognized to be a force for accumulating virtuous activities that may result in the most favorable outcomes, and it's this body and no other, including heavenly bodies, then the value of the intention and how it may be employed, and here we've employed it in the context of a non-virtuous action, but the virtuous intention may be employed also through a virtuous action. Now we will conclude the class here for today. And now with our remaining time, if we use it to ask questions, then we can further clarify the lesson. So in the back, there are a lot of hands up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
When we use the breathing, controlling the breathing to transform our mind from non-virtuous state to a neutral state, then how do we transform it from a neutral state to a virtuous state?
네, 중국 때 라틴에 때 셈이게와디 아니 룽마텐 수규리 요래. 얘네들 룽마텐 데네 아니 야르 아니 게웨셈 디칸데스케 그래. 주다.
너무 맞아. 그 기질 상호 너무 그 셈찌기 겨와다 미겨니가 냠도 표준당 투구요 말 개투구 말해서 뭐 아무데 하고 하지 단 미겨 끼에는 미겨도 파까 아니 겨가 끼고 제가 너무 미겨 막은 겨가 끼도 맞잖아 미겨도 파까에 탑시에 농주체 미겨도 파까 아니 겨가 끼 셈이 수로마데가 수기 아니 로마데 디가 아니 시네 겨가 세다고 해서 세버는 먹고 있어
No, one mind can't be dividedly virtuous and non-virtuous. Understand that it can't be dividedly one and the other. So the solution is to close the non-virtuous mind and then open a neutral mind without blocking the non-virtuous mind. No virtuous mind can arise. So we employ the breath to close the non-virtuous mind and establish it in a neutral state. So to begin with, that's the point.
The neutral phase, is it just the absence of negative thoughts, mental affliction?
The sim lungaten seri se garian seri
셈 쿠란데 시절와
lo
셈 쿠란데 시절와 이 로마데
lo
로마데 그셈 쿠란데 시 로마데 이네 삼성 그 유모 냠도 교자르게 삼성 개선님도 자르와 그래서 꿀웅 잘해야 돼 로마데님도 잘 때는 그 꿀웅도 미겨 차도와 그 셈디 교원님도 잘 때는 아니 셈디 개선 차도와 그래서 그 미교님도 잘 교육받고 교원님도 잘 두고 어디 있어
the nature of the mind is neutral. The mind is naturally neutral. Naturally neutral, it may be conjoined with non-virtuous attitudes. It may be conjoined with virtuous attitudes. When it is influenced by non-virtuous attitudes, the mind becomes non-virtuous. When it is influenced by virtuous attitude, the mind as a whole becomes virtuous. So the process is to pluck out the non-virtue, leave the mind neutral, and then deposit the virtue in the mind, moving it into virtue.
야, 먹고 살다가 버렸다. 언제 마음이 돼.
Okay.
Is there a difference between aspiring towards a neutral mind and desiring to have a neutral mind? Aspire, desire. I tend to make think that's similar, but I'd like to know if they're how they're different.
Then sim lumaten la dun gindun yora dundi dumba dumba
뭐 기회거든.
mara chidan duslana ani gateway sim la ani dumba cheba ani sim lumaten la dumba cheba ta didang ani gateway marada ani lumaten sim lumaten la döpa dan dömbegi kebar ra niro döpa dan dömba ani sim lumaten la dön sim lumaten la dö ki kebar garre hago soy di sik kebar pena ni di beju dang min ra yorwa ma dögi yos ma ni gewe sim la ani dömba inke yos di jesani di kongi chiwa garre sena di ani sim lungmaten la dun sim lungmaten la de 이게 봐. 아버서
이 가가 말해 하서 난 누구도 되었으니까 곧 책이 뒤에서 심중기 체벌 때서 요다. 또 유심중 민다리와 곧 셈비 되어봐도 누구서에서 셈비 소심 되기 로마 숙치 중에 요라서 다 되어봐서 뭐 숙대 체스 상당 듬버스도 충분히 삼다고 거기 제일 키워요 말아서 그 샘디 심중이요 듬버다 덜버스인데 심중이보다 심중이 제일 심하고 쳐버려요 말아 있는 슈치 좀 돼서 쳐버려요 하고
아니 제가
근데 맞아 단다 단다 맞아 콜롬비 듬버스도 좀 받다 pendant 가도 근데 빼도 잘 가르쳐야잖아 내가 이제 제일은 이런 것도 메두이 세저로 메두이 어디로세 대바스는 것도 내가 나라랑 나 대바디다 나 수수배 가려 야제 야단 말이지 언제 유교를 세고 어디에도 지금 쭉쭉 좀 개발지만도 군이 제대로 개발이가 말아 심중 심 코로 심중 지발해서
아니 제가 대한 되봐라 맞아. Now really there isn't a very great difference between the two in terms of their function. The difference has to do with intensity, and both are secondary mental factors, and they accompany a primary mind. And the accompanying secondary factor of desire is of greater intensity than the accompanying secondary mental factor of aspiration. The two are the same in terms of their function. The difference is only really in the intensity. So greater intensity is desires, lesser aspirations. And just to illustrate how we use it, when, for instance, if someone says, I agree, we'll do this, let's say we'll do this, and another says, okay, I agree, then that agreement is a aspiration. But if someone said, okay, let's do this, and then the other said, okay, I want to do that, that implies that other person is going to on their own do just that. And so it's it has greater intensity.
샘 코드 심중가 좀 아직요 샘 코드 심중가 좀 사직이 샘 같은 있는原因 여건이 심중 난 샘디 샘 상보이도 잡아 냠도 대군이 심중 난 샘 두자 이르고도 로바진이 심중 어디 심중가 좀 아직을 건조가가 제일 미라 열에 숨었어 근데 심중 더 옵션 제난 계속 고마대 내가 막 거대고요.
There are 51 mental factors, and some of these mental factors always accompany a primary mind. Some only accompany a primary mind in a non-virtuous state. Others only accompany the mind in a primary mind in a virtuous state. And so there are many different functions to these various mental factors, 51 mental factors. And to study these mental factors is useful, and it's relatively understandable.
Yeah, that's about it. What go with the
You in the white shirt.
Oh, okay. I have a question about the two capacities. Is the first two capacities tied into the first turning of the little Dharma, and then all three applies to the second, third turning of the Dharma? And then the other question is just about listening. So how that is so important for comprehension of meditation. Listening just to the teachings, or is listening as like one is meditating, and more like a sort of combination of two, sort of separation?
Also, 아니 지금 뭐라니요? 아니 담보디 그래서 아니 기부숨이라 아니 기부숨 데 레레라 아니 추기 코르로 레레 자리 요르베 담보디 아니 기부 중원디 아니 코르로 담보 기부 아니 쟁디 아니 니바 숨바 근데 자리 요르베 직제 되네 아니 töbe 페이언이면 töbe 냠는디 제단디 소소 된다 가르레스 지나 베나 최 년도 töbelar 요르베 야메나 소소 공기압도 아니 심 세치 칠라 아니 딱지 체네 디양 아니 töbelar 자르쇼기르베 하고서
제가 당벌이네 기부 숨을 콜로 숨을 기부 숨을 자나 다바데 말해서 하고서 티버 첨보다 충분하는 잘 적으래 근데 콜로 당보디 팀메이 광수 송을 콜로 바르바다 타마님이 티바 치고 원치 송을 하고 아마도 주 숨전 잘나다가 되고 말했어. 어디지 되서 잠깐만서. 이번에 퇴바생이 간다다 수수기 퇴생이 또 가르스나 나눠도 다른다 암조 예물랑 이시여와 공부 나도 드디어 공부가여와 공부가게 인식이 공부기 다 퇴벌할 때 인식 계속나 아니 투중시라 계속이로와 인식 계속 휴게를 술통을 하는데 숨짐이 계속나 이게 숨짐이 계속이로와 로용을 되는 로진이 계속나 그냥 로용스레로와 제가 조디 아니 인식 계획을 잡고 했어. 딱 인식 계획을 때는 공개도 잡아 선중계라서 투중기 싫어하게 대부 선중 되게 하는 퇴배 되는데 맞아봐 전에 쌈네 맞아봐 제대 아니 선중으로 와 어딘지 거기하고 그랬어. 아니 선중은 예시 많이 받는 거 말해서
삼중대 내시 많이 붙이
뭐 말 선중 싫어하는 예시 교육.
내시디 아니 삼중인데 당연히 삼중인데
삼중 싫어 퇴배 예시 계획을 된 똑같이로 와. 똑같이 퇴중 싫어 그래. 이내 삼중
맞아요. The three capacities do not correlate to the three turning of the wheels. Three turnings of the wheel, not quite. The three turnings of the wheel correlate to the foundational teachings, the foundational vehicle, Hinayana, and the Mahayana, those two. So the first turning of the wheel is part of the Hinayana, the foundation vehicle. The second and third turnings of the wheel are part of the Mahayana vehicle. So not quite correspondence capacity to turning. And then regarding listening, listening is mainly an activity that is listening as audition, as the auditory faculty, its engagement makes for listening. There are 5 sense faculties, so there is vision, and when there is an apprehension through the faculty of vision, then that is perception through vision, and when there's perception of flavor through gustation, then that is just that. What we mean by listening is necessarily audition, and an idea understood through audition that may be contemplated through consolidating the message that one has heard gives rise to an understanding that is mental, but the progression is from audition to a lesson that may be contemplated mentally that becomes an understanding that is mental. The series begins here in the case of listening with audition itself necessary.
So let me clarify. So with listening, then there's a reasoning or understanding of that leads to comprehension. So just not listening as a sense door opens, and then another sense door opens, like such as seeing, and then goes to there, so one doesn't really reflect on that, say the listening consciousness. It seems, if I'm understanding correctly, if the listening consciousness is activated, then one is going to contemplate on it for comprehension, and it's just not falling from how that changes as the sense doors open.
디 니시디 여러 아니 니시디 아니 키마타 디 아니 삼베 셰바디 삼바 가레 삼중디 람상 케기 말와 담보디 아니 딱지 지그레 야메나 테스 아니 삼모 땅그레 아니 람상 아니 니네 아니 니셰 디 케네 디 니셰 디 케마타 아니 삼중디 람상 케 용기 말와 되나 아니 가서 디 아니 쭉 통도 아니 통마타 아니 두시디 케 용그와 아니 디레스 아니 그래서 디 람상 케용 그래. 얘는 디 인스 말에 디 소소 아니 년도 아니 니시디 케네 케마다 아니 삼중기 예시디 람상 케용 말와. 아니 데스 딱지 책으로 아니 제자한테 고 하고서
다가다들 그래다. 근데 지난데 미시들 빼자서 미시들 빼자도 좀 고 미시디 디스가나서 온보고 유페 뭐저 온보나는 미시디 페이지 먼저 단거와. 근데 그 퀄리티 심 요하게도 왔어. 디나시 예시디 인기를 고 뒤집으려는데 계획 말이다. 예시다 선중님 뒤집으려고 계획 말. 이나야 계획 담았다도 계획하고 봐서 근데 또 뭐지로 some new code and this 근데 저랑 미지 민라서나 코레다 선나 또 뭐지로 뒤집게 모르고면도 어떤 나시고 공부 쉐버프랑 슉 치려고 오게 감사 고하는 거래 야 삼로탄 뷰는 거는 고하는 거래 고 뒤집이 이제 말했어 가다를 공부 수수 용어 여봐다 공부 노버지나 그거 고래 공부 누구지나 고 고야를 삼로 양 망고 땅을 세로 왔어 근데 내 개발이 열어서 세로 와
You gave the example or compared audition to vision, and of our faculties, vision is the most used for us. We use it most. It is the most rapid form of perception for us, and it is most rapid. It is the most rapid. When listening, the consciousness of audition is it is impossible for there to be a simultaneous comprehension at the moment of listening. However, in any subsequent moment, there may be comprehension. And so the rapidity of the comprehension that follows from audition of a sound varies. It varies with familiarity and exposure. For instance, a name, a familiar name, when heard, will rapidly, nearly instantly, produce the comprehension of the referent. The rapidity of the comprehension following the audition depends upon exposure and familiarity, but also to the powers of the native intelligence of the individual. Those who are sharp, very sharp, will more rapidly follow the audition with a comprehension, and those who are less keen will have to give it more thought. And so the difference in the rapidity is due to that.
전단직 살니 년바에는 당분년보다 니원년보다 선명 쪽으로 요구가 전단직 살니 년바에나 당분년보다 니원년보다 선명 길에 쪽으로 요구가 그래서 쉐버디 용한 직원을 송사로 대대로 온 용세를 해서
Eller det kom de barula ni det kom gro kom la ni de rangsingi ni ti tanda ti kom yongro
곰스나다고 근데 전단직라 살 빼지직 살니 년바에나 당분년보다 니원년보다 선명께 쪽으로 요구로 제가 이번에 이렇게 당부도 토봉원 송사로 되게 선명 누가 있게 두고 대나시 오분노보다 영화모도 송마서 개발비요.
It's just the same as at a first listening, the meaning of what one has heard, say it's not immediately understood. In the second listening, comprehension will come about more rapidly. And that's because of first, the difference in the rapidity of the comprehension has to do with exposure to the idea. And so there'll be a difference in speed of the comprehension depending upon various things, including a person's intelligence and exposure, previous exposure.
If I can just clarify shortly, so it's familiarity with it, and then that leads to comprehension, because if I'm hearing something, then the next thing that's going to be arising would be thought consciousness, which is another sense door. And so it's really when those two combine that an understanding comes about if there's intelligence.
Can you repeat the very beginning one more time? Repeat that one more time.
Okay. If I hear something and you mentioned like the name arises, then thought consciousness would be active. All right, but then that may not lead to comprehension. So comprehension, one aspect that you're saying is mirror, then it's a combination of those two sense doors activated to the next step of comprehension.
맞아. 아니 공기 아니 티워 아니 슈다인데 아니 셀라 아니 서버샤나마 또 아니 거다 트로카브라 디 공기 아니 카빌라 그래 아니 number 7 go 마 여러 아니 go check 페나 아니 미디 말다 아니 나웨 아니 거디 체네 아니 람상데 심기 아니 거디 체용으로 아니 니가 체네 라 니가 체네 되네 아니 고아디 아니 랭게라
그래서 보스도 고니 말다 고치 나시디 거기 공부 용사기 사제 들어와 공부디 사제 용사제 디나는 넘버 7디 주요 넘버 7디 예네 디제 예시 똑바지로 무슨 디 연결와 너무 니디 나 공부 들어와 나시 나시디 예발 때네 아니 와라 똑바지리 똑바로 무슨 말이다. 그거가 무슨 번나가도 너무 대도 통도 하고. 혼이 미디 무슨 그 뒤에 때는 제가 아트 대도 독상을 똑바시게 봐. 똑바르다. 무슨 되게 제수단도 똑바스. 무슨 되게 예시 되게 제수단도 똑바스. 예시 쓰기도 뭐 똑바르래 살아서. 무슨 그다 처벌 때는 제가 이 선번은 samutana ke gwa odiro
아니 디 아니 그래서 아니 number 7 drop 그나네 아니 dropati
이기지
몰라
두번도 이기지
이기 원고 이기고 이거 체네 람상데 이거 마체나 되네 돈다디 또 투비 말어
아무데 무슨 그 무슨 뭘 주대로 무슨 데 제수 장은 똑같이겠다. 대지하고.
아니 이거 마체뱅원라 데 똑당 셰바.
또 이 곳에는 다 예시 뜻이 공부대 셈들레 살아. 그 예시 공부대 간제 가서 내가 이 뷰를 빼자기와. 강바지당 이공아에는 나로 뷰 다시나 뷰디 삼삼 시작이 걸어 동을 삼삼 퍼고 좀 삼삼 누구 동도. 그나지 넘버 7을 찍으러 그 공부 나의 공부 안에서는 나 넘버 7을 살아. 나의 넘시 살아. 나의 넘시 내려와. 그 미기 공부 날려서는 미기 넘시 살아. 그 루이 공부는 어디를 니들 빼지 않는 송을 해서. 이 셰버치 이내 그 공부 보면들 되는데 아니 거기 공부들이 대차로. 원시 미시 나시 제시 미시 소도 아직 셰버드 루이드 잔 저와의 모든 루시 미드 잔 중통으로는 미기 셰버스 아니 나고 있잖아요 제가 어디를 봐
Now the language of door describes where the sound enters the ear, the organ of the ear. So the sensory organ as an opening for a data, external data to enter is what we mean by door here. And when that occurs, when the audio data is met by the sense faculty of the ear, that will immediately produce a conceptual apprehension. It will produce subsequently a conceptual apprehension. And for instance, we have a book and we see the object, seeing the object, then the recognition of the book follows. The recognition of the book is conceptual and involves a concept. And so it is that direct perception produces conceptual recognition. The metaphor used is of attention, mental attention, rather mental apprehension, being like a monkey, and it can come in, a monkey can come in through the east door, the west door, the north door, and be recognized. But here is mental awareness is one thing. There's one awareness, and that awareness will move to the sense faculty in use. And so when there is audition, then awareness, that one awareness is present in the audition, and then conceptual recognition with the presence of mental attention or apprehension will produce a recognition, a conceptual recognition. So then with vision, mental apprehension will become involved in vision, and then vision will produce a conceptual recognition. In the illustration using a monkey, the monkey is the mental consciousness, and the doors are the sense faculties, and the building is the body, and where the mental consciousness may arrive through any of those doors, just as it may arise through the door of vision, the door of audition, etc. Just as the monkey may come into the building through the east door, the west door, the south door.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
but
So no others than that. So should we slowly recite our closing prayers then? Unless we do, we'll probably start to cramp up. Yeah, page 12.
Oh yeah, Chanju Lari Chini Chibi Jawatila Tene, and then Aranzo Chigi, Simrangi Chibi, Simjet and Jigi, and it is made of Sam Kangi Shiva, the Luigi Tungi Shiva, the Ligaton of
And may we dedicate the virtue of attending to the Dharma teaching to dispelling the discontents of all sentient beings, in which we may include ourselves, and to that end we dedicate this prayer.
Yes.
Terma sumbe sera kundu yang jambe yangi zirwe jesu. Tembe temba kunsan lanji jo jine drupe gyana niji. Tangi jijin tobe lamji ni da tsewe chanwe tagi. Dove Yiji Mumba Sajene, Jawe Temba Yurin Zingyurji, Temba Rinchen Chogi Machamba, Yabyan Yambar Yurwe Chogi, Nije Chembe Yiram Kyewa Yi, Tente Tete Sawara Cheparcho, Seje Yawe Menjon Chile, Lejo Janju Ramje Rembe Yang. Hare Namge Yila Pete Yawe Tebo Rindu Yongyurji Lamsam Rube Tunjen Ruje Yogen Seje Medam Mimi Sera Kundu Yawe Mabayi Namda Lamda Rewa Magyurji Kanze Tekwa Chola Chuje Suje Prabha Zumba Deyi Tuden Namge Tadu Troje Ji Tashi Gyaso Chogun Gyagyu Ji. From my two collections, vast the space that I've amassed, from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose mind's wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all my lives, Manjushri. May I find the best of the paths of the complete teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by practicing. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the points of the path as I have discerned them. May I uphold Buddha's teaching for a very long time, with my heart going out with great compassion, in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread or once spread have declined. May I offer this treasure of happiness to aid all sentient beings. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time by following the complete graduated path to enlightenment and the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all human and non-human beings that eliminate adversity and make things conducive for practicing the excellent paths never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes an effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may he always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may ocean lotus spirit is better.
Dāgī jīnyē sāmbē dewa tī, tēnāṁ rūwa kūnā gāṅpēnā. Kēvara jēsē lōsāṁ rāpa yī, tēmbē nīmbō rīmbō sējē shō. Kāre rāvē kōvē shīngāṅdē, tēnāṁ dewa māvē kūngwē. Chērē sēvāṁ tēnzīṅ yāsō yī, shāvē sīdē bharabhū tēngyū. Jambe babu jeda kemba na kundu zambu de yande jindi. Eda kungi jesu dalo je jewa de tamche rado. Yusu shebe jewa tamche de mowa ganda chodu maba. Tashi jewe zawa dikun jang zambu shushe rado mowa je janju senjo rembo je maje pana je jewa nyamba meba yang kone kondu dewa sho.
I dedicate whatever virtues I have ever collected for the benefit of the teachings and of sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losam Drapor to shine forever. In a land encircled by snowy mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until cyclic existence is ended. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra too realize things as they are, also I dedicate all these merits in the best way, that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these roots of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by the victorious Saskahan ones of the three times, so that I might perform the noble Bodhisattva's deeds. May the supreme jewel Bodhicitta that has not arisen or rising grow, and may that which has not risen. Okay, thank you very much. And there's lunch outside, and if you have time, turn over the ideas through question and answer.
which is 10 on.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'll see you guys outside.
Thank you, Shara.
Thank you guys. Thank you.